Day 4 of my Feminist Book Week, where we are reading books that make misogynists squirm. Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. So I just read this one recently. I liked it a lot. I'm not going to give you a whole original summary of the Medusa story. You can Google it, but it's a retelling of the Medusa story. The reason I like this book is that it makes you question the narrative of the hero. So something that is very relevant today. If women aren't allowed to publish their own journey, their own stories, which they weren't for a very long time, and the only people telling their stories were men, how accurate do you think those stories really were? How can you ever trust that you're getting the truth if the story is only told from the people who consider themselves the heroes? And it's something very valid right now. There's a huge book banning extravaganza going on in the country right now. And it's not just books that they're trying to ban, they're trying to ban speech. They're trying to ban you from being able to say anything that is negative toward their narrative. So this is why we're seeing a lot of, we don't want any sort of negative view of slavery. It's slavery. How do you not expect? Okay, I saw a couple of the examples of the books that they do approve of, and I can't apologize on behalf of all. I can't even. I can't. Have you seen this bullshit? Have you seen it? Black people just, hey, we're just so happy to be here, guys. As well, just like, let's have some rapey books going on. Like, Susie didn't really mind being raped. She's just smiling in the bed or something. That'll be next. That'll be next. She's like chained up in the basement. Like, I deserve this. I've been sex trafficked, but no problem, because maybe I'll get pregnant and that'll be the real miracle. So it was all worth it. The fuck. Also banning books from people who, anything that's even remotely gay, and it's not even gay. Like there's a couple of books that are on the banned book list. There's a girl on here, she's very good. I can't remember her name, but she talks about her area and how there's this woman who doesn't even have kids, but she's like the leader of this banned book movement, and and she shows some of the books that are being banned, and it's because two guys are close together on the cover. They're not even gay, they're just standing next to each other, and it's like, no, we can't have that. No. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But we're also banning books about anything that is even remotely gay. But it's also, you've got to ask yourself about history and how it's being told and whose viewpoint it's being told through, and why it's important to have books that are not just showing that viewpoint, because we don't know how real that is. You know what I mean? We don't know how realistic that is. We don't know how honest they're being. People are fallible, and even somebody who is trying to be a real historian and is trying to be as honest as possible, we find times where things are exaggerated, or they are not being told exactly as they were, because they're trying to get you to buy a book, or they're trying to get you to lean one way or another about it. Really, if the people who are going through an experience aren't the ones who are giving you the recall of that experience, then how much can you trust what you're reading? They're rewriting a history now. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to rewrite history. They're trying to get rid of any book that says otherwise. If you listen to why they're saying that they want to do that, is because we don't want our kids growing up thinking that we did anything wrong. Yeah, you did. But you did. And so why can't we learn from that? History will repeat itself if you don't learn from it. And therein lies the main issue, is they want history to repeat itself. They want to go back to America getting great again, to a time where there were a lot of really oppressed people, and they didn't have to read about these stories in the news, and everything was perfectly a-okay, and everything was wonderful, and it was just different then, guys. It was so much nicer. And it's because the people who things were happening to weren't allowed to put their stories out. So to put out their viewpoint of what happened to them. Or I hate to always harp on like The Handmaid's Tale, but it's because it's so relevant to what's happening right now. And it's because like one of the first things that they did was to make it illegal for women to read. And it's because they don't want them to learn anything, because it's easier to subjugate people and it's easier to control them if they don't learn anything, if they don't know anything. Stupid people are easy to convince, and they're easy to keep in place, and they're easy to keep in control of. So that's why they want to do that. If you haven't figured that out, yeah, they want you to be dumb. So they don't want you to read anything above like fourth grade level. And that's why a lot of people are keeping their kids out of school, because they don't want them to learn anything that they don't teach them themselves. So this story, kind of going back to what this book is about, is a retelling of Medusa from her point of view, and of how this happened to her. And it's a really interesting read. I liked it a lot. I don't want to spoil it, so I don't want to say too much. You got to just read it. You know about Medusa as this monster of a woman, but maybe that's because that's what she was. Maybe she was doing something that made men say she was a monster. Where does the idea of beauty come from? The abuse that women take in the form of what's said to them, and that they should just accept their place, the place that men are making for them, not what they should be doing with their lives or what they want to do with their lives. But this is what we tell you should do. And I don't understand why you're just so problematic, because you don't fit into that and you don't just do it. I love this book because it shows how ideas can follow from one generation to another, and it really does depend on who's telling their side of the story. You're only getting one side of the story for a huge chunk of history. So maybe you should think about that whenever you're reading, especially if you're in school and you're being told to read something in a history book. You have to wonder, who wrote this? Who wrote this account? Who wrote the account of this, and whose perspective is it from? So if you'd like to buy this book, please use the link that I'm going to leave in the description, because I get a couple of pennies if you do. And if not, you can simply use your library card and put it to good use. It's a great read, and I highly recommend it.